going for coffee? You going for coffee? So no one's going for coffee. Who's going for coffee?
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Who's Going for Coffee. This morning we have my good buddy Eddie Christensen. How you doing, pal?
How are you doing?
Eddie Christensen Jr.
Yep.
So how's everything going, bro?
Good, man. You know, a lot of big stuff going on at NEIEP.
A lot of big stuff. So, before we get into NEIEP, I like to talk about, everybody's path into the trades, right? Your uncle is the GP for the elevator constructors, and your dad's regional.
Yeah.
Right? So some pretty heavy hitters in this organization. So I can assume, I might be wrong, but maybe was this the path that was always laid out for you, or did you have some other aspirations when you were younger, coming out of high school?
So I come from like a unique upbringing, right? So I got blue collar dad's side of the family, white collar mom's side of the family. The goal was always to be like mom, right? I was going to be an attorney, so that was the plan. But I wasn't the best behaved youngster, so that plan kind of fell out, at a young age.
So did you, out of high school, did you go to school for that, or? So
I actually, that was the plan. I started community college, and it just wasn't for me. I struggled just throughout high school. I was always, I always kind of was told that was what I wanted to do, but it really wasn't the right path for me. I kind of, in the back of my mind, always knew that making my way to the elevator trade was probably the best for somebody like me.
So you're listening to some noise in the household, and this is where you should go, but I think I really want to go this other route. So did those guys, so your uncle and your father, did they kind of maybe step back and say, let Eddie Jr. make his own choice?
Yeah,
or?
Pretty much. It was one of those things where, I was following the path that my mom set forth for me. And, it just wasn't really, I was in school for the wrong reasons. I was partying more than I was attending classes. And so finally they pulled the plug on that. And, I got in 25 years ago. So it was before we had become an apprenticeship program. So it was a lot different process getting in. I was basically just, there was an opening, and I was given, the call. I was said, start at this elevator company tomorrow. And that's pretty much how it began.
So what was your thoughts when you got in there? Like, this is where I want to be? And
yeah, I was always like a mechanical guy growing up.
How old were you when you started?
18 years old.
18?
Yeah.
Listen, you guys, I probably said it every episode so far, when you get into this trade at that age, man, you got such a head start on everybody. When you think about, better than anybody what those retirement benefits are going to provide for you, and when you're contributing to that at an early age.
It's weird how things shift. Initially that isn't the main point of focus, right? It was more so just, wow, I'm making like real money now.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool, because a lot of my friends, they were really, working shitty jobs, or they were in school themselves. So, I was the guy picking up all the bar tabs at that point at 18.
At 18. All right. But other than your father and your uncle, did you have other people that you knew? Did you have like other family members or other friends in the trade?
So there's my dad and two brothers, so Frank and Larry. Okay. They were both in the trade. So I'm second generation.
Huh. Yeah.
Good. Other than that, like just, growing up in an elevator family, obviously I knew a lot of elevator people and their kids too. Some of them had already made their way into the business.
Yeah.
So, there was the draw was there. I knew that, very early on after starting, it wasn't the easiest start. I mean, like I was really young, but I grew into it. I just knew that this was the right path once I got on it.
Listen, there's people that come in at that age that physically they're ready, mentally they're not.
Right.
Or mentally they are and physically they're not. And, some are and some aren't.
Yeah.
It's everybody's different. It doesn't mean anything that if you're not ready, that's a young age.
Yeah. I will say this though, like, given how different the industry is now, I don't think the 18-year-old version of me would would have been able to get in with the recruitment process the way that it is now. You know, I would have had to put in a little bit more work to get it. I'm glad it worked out, but you know, it's just a whole different ball game now.
It is a different ball game, you know. And I've heard in the past, you've heard, I'm sure you've heard it too, that, you know, apprenticeship kind of was not a good thing for our industry. And I believe the exact opposite. I think it was a great thing for the industry. I think it allows us to really find some talent out there. You know, really, I think it really did some good things for us. And, you know, coming in when apprenticeship just started, right? We're just learning our way as an industry of how to navigate those waters to where we've, you know, in a short period of time, I think fine-tuned it to be, you know, a pretty good operation.
Yeah, I just remember, you know, getting the start, and that was just about a, you know, 6-8 months before they actually announced that we were going to be becoming an apprenticeship. And I just remember.
What year was that?
That was 2001,
Okay.
May of 2001.
Yeah.
And it was just a couple months later that they made that announcement. And I just remember, like, everybody's heads exploded, and they felt like the industry was going to come crashing down, and, you know, the world's ending. And, you know, time told a different story, you know. And I think, you know, I do remember, so I've, you know, seen the industry evolve in that 25 years. And I could say that, at least in my opinion, I think it's evolved in a positive way, you know. And more changes are coming, and I believe that they're good. You know, I've also was able to see, you know, the version of the NEIEP program that I was, you know, taught into, and then seeing what the students get down, and there's no comparison whatsoever. Not to say that we didn't have great teachers back then, but the content and the way that they're being taught now is just like unparalleled. We've become, you know, in the last 25 years, at least from what I can see, the gold standard of apprenticeship programs and schooling.
But right now, you're the national coordinator for NEIEP.
Yes.
Right? We will circle back a couple of years. You come on as a area coordinator, right? There's probably like, we'll say like 20 members running around that are area coordinators to handle all the, you know, the apprenticeship for all the locals around the country.
Yep.
So looking back at that time when you became a coordinator, was that something that you were striving for? Like that was an area of the industry that...
I'll be honest, I became an elevator mechanic. I was very happy making the money that I was making. I lived in downtown Chicago, so I would be one of those guys that would get all the like overtime callbacks or entrapments, even when I wasn't on call. So I basically was writing my own paycheck. So segueing into the school program, that really, it wasn't a thought. It was an idea that was proposed just to come on as a teacher. You know, and I was open to it. I came on, I started teaching, and very quickly into that, I started to identify things that I felt like we could improve on, right? But just as an instructor, you don't really have the power to make those changes. And, you know, timing worked itself out in the sense that the person that was the coordinator in my local was, you know, thinking about moving on to something different. And so I put my name in the hat, and ended up getting the role of coordinator. I ended up having, when I first got the job, it was my home local of Local 2 Chicago, and then the entire state of Ohio. I believe there's 4 locals there. And so that was cool. It got me outside of the bubble, because for that, you know, however many years, I had only seen the school program that I had in Chicago, and I just assumed that was the way it was everywhere. And it was kind of, you know, shocking to see the condition of other places. And so I just wanted to, from that point forward, I wanted to try and mimic what I had where I was from and try and make everything look the exact same. And I think over the course of the last couple of years, we've made great strides at, like, you know, improving upon the student experience, like, as to include, like, you know, the chairs, the tables, the screens, the facilities in which they're taught in, you know, all that stuff counts.
It does. It all contributes to the, like you said, the experience that they're having, right?
Yeah.
These are all grown men and women coming out of working on a construction job site, coming into a classroom. I remember when I started here in 2012 running the school, we had these little tiny desks that were like, you know, for elementary school. Like, what are we doing here, right? So just bringing in the right equipment, the chairs, the tables, the screens, it definitely adds to that experience and just makes it a better learning environment. Yeah.
You know, in my time as coordinator to my time now as the national coordinator, just in the improvements that we've made to that learning experience, I think are going to carry on for generations and generations of elevator constructors. Like I said previously, like it's a whole different experience than it was like back when I was first going through school. You know, and you know, all that stuff benefits us all and the trade as a whole.
It does. And I like to, NEIEP is very open to change. Well, a lot of people don't like change, but if you're not changing, you have to. You have to evolve with the times, with technology. But being able to look at a process and not say, well, we're doing it this way because that's how we always did it. You know, always constantly. And we'll talk about, and we've been talking about it today, is that whole recruitment process, right? That thing was done a certain way, and then there was some improvements, whatever. But we blew that thing up a bunch of years ago and made some really great improvements that I think really changed the game on how we took applications and processed people. And in a few short years, it's happening again, right? It's changing again, and it's a good thing that it's changing again. It's changing for the better.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the way that this program will continue to grow in a positive way is if, you know, you create something new, you should already be working on the next version of it. You know, just don't rest on your laurels. I mean, like when it comes to, you know, the recruitment site that we have now, that's ours, that we, you know, you and I were a part of creating just a couple of years ago. You know, you take a look at the first version of that that's out now, you take a look at the version now and the other version that's coming down the pipeline, like it's all just continually improving. And that'll extend into the classroom too. So like the other, you know, nice thing that we've been able to do over the course of the last couple of years is speed up speed up how quickly we are able to conduct rewrites and continue to evolve the curriculum itself, because by the time we get done completing, you know, 1 through 800, we should already be starting back at 100. That's how quickly this business is evolving, and we need to be able to move at that same rate.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back years ago, technology didn't evolve so quick.
Yeah.
You know, little things were coming down the road, but you look the last 10 years, man, this industry has just changed completely. And then you say it's going to happen that much quicker over the next 10 years. And you're right, it's got to constantly be this revolving door of rewriting this curriculum, keeping these guys, you know, learning, you know, the new way and turning them into journeymen, not on 20-year-old curriculum that isn't even relevant anymore. So, I mean, there's still old stuff out there, but we have to constantly be changing, without a doubt.
Yeah, there's a lot of old stuff out there. You know, and that's the other thing is, you know, we always have to continue to renew all of our like tests and final exams and stuff like that, because, you know, as the industry changes, it's almost like for instance, we just released the 500, you know, the new version of 500. You know, we're already identifying things within that we could probably improve on for the next rewrite. And so same thing with our unit exams and our final exams. Although every student's going to see the same exam, they see it in a different order. You know, by the time next semester rolls around, we'll have all of those rewritten. We're going to try and do that as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that what's happening out there with NEIEP. It's a great organization. Listen, I held that job down for a long time, and you're there. I'll say it 1,000 times. I think it's the best gig in the whole industry. It really is for what your impact is, you know, on this industry. It's a busy job. There's a lot going on, but what your impact is and how you these young people, because that's the foundation of this industry. Yeah. It's these young people and getting them heading in the right path, right? You can if they start off bad, it's hard to get back on that narrow path. But if you start off in a good way, right, it's a lot easier to keep everybody on that straight and narrow.
And also, like, you know, the program that we develop is only as good as the people pushing the message, right? So what I've done in my time as the national coordinator is I've, you know, had the opportunity to, you know, bring on new staff members, and I've made sure that they're the right people that have the right mindset, that are out there for the right reasons. And I believe that that's bleeding into all of those locals. Sure. I think the overall view of NEIEP from those locals is way different than it was just a few short years ago. And I think that has a lot to do with my team and the message that they push, the responsiveness, the everything. I think people can see that those people are putting in the extra work. They respect that work ethic. And I think that overall, like that, that's helping garner a little bit more respect for NEIEP than was there previously.
Yeah. The other thing too, I think, is going to get that respect is when they go up to Providence and they see that magnificent building that got built up there, our training headquarters. That's an eye opener, bro. I mean, when we get our instructors that go up there and they go see that facility, and then the people that we have up there training our guys, every single one of them comes back and they're just blown away. The expectations were exceeded, going up there. And listen, we were both there for the opening when they built it. We had our first AC meeting in a wide open area on folding chairs, and it's like, what's this? And then you look, not too long, it didn't take that long, and they created that facility. And
it's pretty impressive.
It is.
And I can't. I'm out there a couple times every other month. I like going out there when we have a packed house, when I could see the instructors utilizing the classrooms, getting that knowledge, being able to bring it back to their locals. And every time I'm there, like, that's the one thing the constant feedback that I get, that's, across the board. Wow, what an amazing place. I just wish more people can see what we got going on there. It's really nice.
Yeah. Well, listen, slowly we try and get everybody up there. We try and keep a list here who hasn't been up there, new instructors going up there for, trainer. So
that's the other thing. So, that's since taking my job over. The one big change that I made is, I want to do my best to make sure that our teachers are well prepared before they hit the classroom. So the one big thing is, I really would prefer that, if we can, if schedule allows, when we onboard somebody, I want them to go out there for that basic trainer course before they hit the actual classroom. I feel like that's such a useful tool. Historically, you might be teaching a year or two before you even get that. And for that year or those 2 years, you're kind of like a fish out of water. Luckily, some guys stay, some guys go, but some of those guys that might have left might have stayed had they had that training leading up to hitting the classroom. But I just know, like, now, moving forward, it's something that we're offering to everybody before we want them to hit the class. Look, we understand there's people in the business that are great elevator guys. Does not necessarily make them a great teacher. They might have the tools to become a great teacher, but they just might not know how to apply them to a classroom setting. So that's what we're going to offer them before they hit the classroom. And I feel like it'll yield better results, not just for them personally, but for our students also.
They just need that little bit of help. And those trainers, each teacher takes something different out of those classes because they each need something different, right? I've had many, and I'm sure you have too, phenomenal adjusters, right? And week 2, coming out, banging on my door. This ain't for me. Like, I just can't get it from here to, I just can't do it. And they just need that little bit of push. And the struggle is, ideally to get them for that trainer before they get in the classroom. Unfortunately, sometimes that guy got hired because of need, right? Somebody bailed out and he's willing to step in. The timing of it doesn't allow for it. But I agree with you, man. To get them up there as soon as possible and give them all the tools needed to succeed in that classroom.
I can't help but think about how many guys we may have lost through the years because they felt overwhelmed, because they got put into a setting where they didn't quite know how to properly run the classroom set, just do certain things that they may learn in that class. I just know that now, like I said, if their schedules allow, they'll be offered that, and potentially anything that would relate to the class that they want to teach.
You look at, too, some of these locals around the country, these smaller locals where there's only a handful of teachers, as opposed to a bigger local like Chicago, New York, LA, where there's some support like other teachers. There might be 30, 40 teachers on the roster that they can, pick the brain of a couple of guys. And some of these smaller locals, they don't have that opportunity, right? So the class is great. I enjoyed them. I've taken those classes, but it's all good, man. NEIEP is really rocking and rolling and doing a great job. But you had twins not too long ago. And I remember that when that was happening, like, man, this guy reality is going to punch him in the nose. So I know it's been great, but how's life as a father of 2 twin girls?
Been a wild ride, 2.5 years. They were born January 29th, 2023. It also happens to be the same day that I got this job. So that was probably the best day of my life.
Really? I didn't even realize that. Same day.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's been fun. Now they're at the point where, they notice everything, they mimic everything, but on the other end of the coin. They also know when Daddy's leaving, and I travel a lot. You know, I'm on the road 3 weeks out of the month, but it's what's needed. But that's you know, it just makes all the time that I spend with them when I'm back home that much better. You know.
Yeah. So twins, are they like personality-wise? Are they different?
Polar opposites.
Are they?
Polar
Right.
opposites. You know, I have one that's a little, she needs all the love at all times, and she needs to be held. And the other one that's a little Miss Independent. She's happy just playing and doing her own thing in her room by herself. Yeah, couldn't be any different. So the one that's, and they also, one looks a lot like my wife and one looks a lot like me. So we all got our own little mini-me's.
And how about Grandpa? How's he doing?
He's loving it. He's loving it. So like, you know, this is his third and fourth grandkid, but the only two that are in Chicago with him. So yeah, he's loving it.
Does he live near you?
He's about 10 minutes from us.
Okay, so he gets to see them all the
Oh
time.
yeah, all the
That's
time.
great.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So
Yeah. So that's good stuff. So, you know, like I said, with NEIEP, you know, still staying involved, and, you know, we just brought on a new coordinator. Danny Comtel's doing a great job already. I think he's a little deer in the headlights, but he'll be the first one to admit that. But, you know,
here's what I'll say about the situation that he's got, and this is what I keep trying to reiterate to him. He couldn't be in a better position. He has somebody that's a wealth of knowledge like you on site to offer assistance, and also the previous coordinator, Phil, who's amazing also. You know, you couldn't ask for a better situation. Most people walk into it and they're replacing somebody that, you know, moved on and, you know, isn't there anymore, or maybe retired. And then they're kind of relying on, you know, making calls. Well, the help's here. And so this is a really good situation for him. And he's a really great worker. I could tell he's got a great work ethic, and he's just a really good person. That's the thing that I've, you know, attempted to do with all of the turnover that we've had. Is not only am I looking for the best combination of, you know, NEIEP knowledge, work ethic, but ultimately I'm just hiring good people, you know, and I feel like, you know, I'm almost batting 1,000.
almost. But it works because you think about the amount of time that you spend with these people, right? Going up there, you're on committees, you're building, right? A lot of people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes. You got all these committees and rebuilding recruitment or SIG-REG or, you know, whatever's going on. And you got these 4, 5, 6 person committees that have to get this work done. So you're spending a lot of time together. I got to tell you, man, every project I ever worked on, usually it was almost more fun than work, right? Because you're working with great people, smart people that just want to get the job done. They don't care whose job it is to do what. It's just, let's just get the job done. Let's move on. And it shows in the result, in the product.
And I think like that's another, when we talk about changes that we've seen over the last couple of years and why we've been able to move at such a fast rate. One thing that I've adopted is, you know, when we pick up on a project, I try and, you know, I don't want to overload the project with a bunch of people, like too many cooks in the kitchen. So what I do is you know, whatever that you know, whatever we plan on doing, I try and find people that have specific skill sets that'll work best within that project. And those are the people that'll be working on it. So a small, more focused group of people, and I felt like that's been a lot more beneficial. That's why you've been able to see things completed a lot quicker. You know, we just recently created a JC training package. It's a 3-part series that we're going to be showing each time we go to a JC meeting. And it includes stuff like, you know, what an apprentice folder should include, how to properly interpret the SOP, you know, apprentice files, stuff like that. And all that stuff's really helpful because a lot of these JCs, maybe not here in Local 1, but in other JCs around the country, the turnover is pretty high. So you constantly, you know, trying to have people do the things the right way. The training package will help. And when we put that together, I had a specific group of people that I wanted to get in on that, and we were able to get it, you know, written, built, and posted within 2 months.
What's coming down the road? What kind of crazy project might be that you can say we're working on that a little bit of a game changer?
In terms of the in-class stuff, we have the RC7 under practical, which is going to be released. We're going to be doing some beta testing of that at the end of September, and then we're going to go with a wide release at the end of this semester. So everybody that's in 700 this semester will have the opportunity to take it. That practical exam is going to be worth well over 8 points towards the mechanics test. The eventual goal is to have a practical in place for every course level. So 700 is the next one to go. That one incorporates the CO43 virtual controller. So that's one big thing we got coming. Obviously, we have RC600. The rewrite is wrapping up, and so hopefully that thing will be within the next year, I believe. We'll be releasing that. Big changes to the recruitment method. So we're going to be switching from our current recruitment process to kind of fine-tuning it, changed around the application itself. Going to be giving people a lot more points for classes that they may have taken throughout high school or in college, things that they might not have gotten points for before. Same thing as it pertains to like military members. So like, just to give you as you know, if you served in the military, you get 5 points toward your overall score. Well, we didn't feel like that was enough for some of those military members that might have transferable skills over to the trade itself. So now when they upload their DD-214, we'll be able to see what they did in the military. And now not only will they get that baseline level of points, but we're not going to leave any points on the table if they have some sort of skills that they learned in the military or some sort of job that they had that's transferable to trade or will be helpful to them. Yeah, some big changes coming there too.
Just talking about the practicals a little bit, right? So they're getting a piece of that mechanics exam with the practicals. How do you think it's gone so far? I know it's only been 500 now, 100, right? Small piece, but do you think that's helped?
Yeah, I do. So what I found is, sometimes we have people that struggle with tests, right? And so I've had in a couple locals where their first crack at the mechanics test, they may have scored like, we'll just say the 65, which is 5 points off from a passing score. But then I take a look, the JAC or, whoever, the area coordinator will take a deep dive into their history and kind of see what we can do to help them get through the program. And in many cases, we'll see that, the 100 practical didn't exist when they went the first time through school. So we could place them back into 100, get them an opportunity to take that 100 practical, and then apply those points to the overall score. So for instance, somebody that failed maybe like a couple months ago, if that doesn't have the 700 and the 100 practical, let's place them back into those classes, get them those points, and give them a way better shot at passing. Like all that stuff is considered, when we want to get somebody through the program, because that's the ultimate goal, is get them through, get them all the knowledge that they possibly have, and make sure that they're the best elevator constructor moving forward, because that's job security for all of us.
Sure is. Where do you see that percentage? You have to all 8. Or is that a number that?
So there's a pie, right? And each one of the courses is worth 12.5% of the overall grade. So basically, if the practical exam for RC 700 is worth, roughly 8 points, you're going to get a percentage. Now those, depending on how well you did on the practical, those points that you see on the mechanics test for 700 will be weighted more or less based on that score. Same thing applies to 100 and 500.
So the written part is always going to be there.
Yeah.
The practical is not going to replace the written part. That's some of the, rumors that are out there. Oh, we'll get to the end of this and there'll be no more tests.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of rumors. The frequency in which you could take the test, right? There's been talk about potentially being able to take the test a couple times a year, but as it stands, it's going to be once a year, as it should. I mean, I think that, when we see people that fail, a lot of times we want to be able to like identify and fix those weak areas, because it's not, like I said, the ultimate goal is to get them through the mechanics exam and have them be mechanics, but I also want them to be good mechanics, right? So like, I feel like absorbing the stuff that they're, deficient in, then passing the test, that'll benefit them in the long run.
And that fix ain't really a short-term fix for most. I mean, for some that might have missed by a point, maybe it is a short-term fix, but for a lot, maybe it is a little, maybe it will take 6 to 9 months of maybe repeating the semester and then, to be able to get to passing that test.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier today, we might be seeing a little bit of an effect of, the people that had to take home study during COVID. Here at this local, I believe it was 5 semesters in a row.
Yeah.
Some people just were basically like e-learning.
Yeah.
That can't transfer well.
No,
and so,
not at all.
Although they were passing, like there's something to be said for that one-on-one or not, but that in-class instruction that they could have received. You know, look, it's not just here. I have some guys in South Dakota that have to, unfortunately, spend their entire apprenticeship on home study. And I don't know how they do it. I mean, I know, like, yes, what you're getting on the job is good, but I don't know how much they're absorbing of the actual course content. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, like, you know, as we were talking about earlier today, we're going to start to seeing a lot of those people that took a lot of that homeschooling, taking the mechanics test now. So as those results roll in, we'll kind of see, you know, how it had an effect on them.
Yeah, I think it did a little bit, but listen, all we can do is identify, help them out, and move forward. And I think we're at the point now where we're starting to see the guys that are taking the test. They're at the tail end of, right? So maybe the guys taking the test now only maybe took 1 or 2 semesters, and a year from now,
nobody.
You know, it's nobody, and maybe we'll get back to, you know, where we were. But all good stuff. So coming from Chicago. A lot of people might ask you, I know the answer
Pizza?
to this.
You're going to talk about pizza?
Forget that. We'll talk about the pizza in a second, but you're a big White Sox fan.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's either one or the other. You can't be both. You can't.
Well,
say
that's
you're
what
a
I say
Chicago
with the
fan.
Mets and the Yankees.
You
You
say
can't-
you're a Chicago fan, you're not a real Chicagoan, or you don't even like sports, you know. But just like I'm sure it is here, Mets or Yankees.
You gotta pick one.
Same thing in Chicago.
It's in the manual. You have to choose one. And anybody that says, "Well, I root for both," well, you can, but you're just you know.
You can root for the Cubs. You just not get invited to my Christmas party, right? And I don't care if we're family. That's how brutal it can be.
I know. And times have been tough with the White Sox the last couple of years, right?
Yes, they have, especially when they were supposed to be so good just a couple of years ago. And then they had the absolute worst record in the history of Major League Baseball last year.
Not that I watch. Is it any better right now? Or?
It's a little bit better, but it couldn't have gotten any worse.
It couldn't have. When you go down as a worse team than the 62 Mets, you're saying something.
That's why I was really pushing for the Rockies to really continue to be shitty this year. But they started winning lately, so we're going to hang on to that record forever. It looks like.
And you said it before. We'll kind of get ready to wrap things up a little bit. But this pizza that you got out there.
So just so you know, like, people from Chicago don't eat deep dish pizza. The only time you find yourself eating deep dish pizza is when somebody's in from out of town and they want to try deep dish pizza. We have a more thin, like, tavern style pizza that everybody from Chicago eats.
So you're not a deep dish pizza
No,
guy?
you can't eat deep dish pizza on the regular. You eat one piece and you gotta take a nap.
You look at these maps. Where's the best pizza in the country? And New York's red. You got a little tiny piece of New Jersey and this little dot in Chicago. That's the only.
Well, it's good, but you just can't do it often, you know.
I'll try. I'll have it once in a while.
But it's also what you grow up on, right? So nobody's ever going to be able to convince you that there's nothing better than New York style pizza.
New York style pizza
and
New
nobody
York
from
bagels.
Chicago you're ever going to be able to convince that there's anything better than what they've grown up on. And guess what? People from Ohio, they'll tell you that Domino's pizza is the best pizza there is, because that's what they grew up on. I feel
The other weird thing with
bad for
the other weird thing with pizza with you guys, and I had it was such a great night. I come out there and I was helping out probably with a recruitment, and Ray and Bobby took me out. I think your father came out with us, and we went to a cigar lounge, where they had the lounge downstairs, the little private area. I come into this place, and I'm a cigar smoker, right? And I go into this nice big cigar shop. I'm like, wow, look at this. And there's cigars everywhere, and looking around, and like, yeah, go pick whatever. And then we get in the elevator to go downstairs, and now you have this beautiful lounge with all these leather chairs, and then these private rooms, and there's lockers, right? We go into this room, and there's like 8 of us, and we all got the cigars out. We all, I bought a few, and then there's just a whole bunch on the table. And then whoever brought us down, you probably know the guy. I wouldn't remember his name. I think he was involved with the trades. He goes to his locker. He brings out a bottle of whatever. Like, look at this. Then he orders some pizza. I'm like, all right, whatever. And the way you guys cut that pizza into these squares, pizza's...
Isn't it easier to handle?
No, man. It's supposed to be in a triangle, and you fold that thing in half, and they got a round pizza cut in these little squares. And like, look at these guys.
I feel bad for the person that gets the one in the middle, because
Right?
that's the worst one.
That was a great night. Do you know the guy I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, he was involved. He wasn't in the trades, but he was involved somehow. Whatever. He was some kind of big time. Bobby knows the guy. And the rumor was, and I don't know if it was what got me there to go there that night, but the rumor was that your guy Jeremy Roenick was going to come out,
Yeah.
right? Because you guys had a
He's out a lot.
bit of a relationship with him.
Yeah, we
but
do.
he would show up.
He's a great guy. He comes to a lot of our like golf outings. We're big. We help him out with this charity. He's a really good dude.
Yeah, so that didn't happen for me that night.
No.
I was a little disappointed, but it's all right. But that was, listen, I've been out there a bunch of times helping out, and you guys roll out the red carpet, just like we like to do when guys come in.
You gotta take good care of me when I'm here.
That's one of the things, Lenny upstairs is like, make sure you feed those guys and because we know it's reciprocated to us around the country, and it makes for a great time. But listen, it's always a pleasure seeing you. I can remember, your first AC meeting, and we were on opposite sides of the room, and it's like, here's a new guy. I'm like, all right, see what this guy's all about. And I think we formed a nice relationship. We did a lot of things together, right? Worked on some committees together. Did some great things up there. And listen, man, I think you're doing an awesome job up there as the national coordinator. I think things have really. You took over that job, which they had years ago. It went away, and then it came back. And I think it was sorely needed. I think it just it provided like a bigger rudder on that ship to steer, in the right direction. So I think you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and yeah, man, always watching what Eddie's doing from a distance because it's all good. It's all good. So again, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. Anytime you come into town, come on, give my best to you. I know your wife, we've met a bunch of times, and give those little girls a kiss for me. And I'll say one thing about your father. Your father, I like your dad a lot. When my mother passed in 2018, that guy called me, and listen, tons of people here that were supporting me too. And, anybody that's lost a parent knows how difficult it is. And I remember sitting upstairs, I'm getting goosebumps right now, sitting upstairs in my office, and that phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't know who it was, and it was your dad, and it was like, it meant a lot. It was like, here's a guy that, I'm sure you told him or whatever. And that guy picked up the phone and put a smile on my face that day. So I'll always remember that. He's a great guy. But thanks a lot, bro.
No, thanks for having me. This was great. I was a little worried about doing it before I got on. And
all the luck for whatever you got coming down. I know that there's only, going up for you. You're one of those guys that's just gonna, like a big snow plow. Everybody's just let me plow through and everybody get out of the way. But yeah, thanks for coming down. Appreciate it. Best to your family and thanks a lot, bro. All right, pal.
Who's going for coffee?